One of my favorite ways to flip books on Amazon is to buy long tail books. These are books that have a very high sales rank and sell very infrequently but consistently. Books that you can pick up for a very cheap price, sell them for a very high return or very high ROI. And even though these books don't sell all the time, when they do sell, they make a bunch of money. And actually what inspired that is this book right here. This book, Cessna 1976 Skyhawk. You can see that I did buy this on March 19th. You can see the total there was $38.88. And if I scroll down to the order page here on SellerAmp, you can actually see that I just sold this 5 hours ago for $179.99. Now, if we input the cost price and sales price, that gives us a profit of $106 or 274% ROI. Actually, a long tail book that sold pretty quickly in terms of when I purchased it and when I sold it. But $100 profit for a book that I never had to touch. It went right to a prep center, right to Amazon, right to the customer. Did it all from just the seat here of my chair. So let's go ahead and dissect why I bought this book, and then we'll show you how you can actually find books right now just like this. So when you scroll down to the Keepa graph, you'll actually first look at March 19th, which is when I purchased this. And this book was listed at $180 at the lowest use price, and then dropped down to $32.89. And it wasn't like this book sold immediately, right? This is a book that at that time had a 5.7 million sales rank. In other words, a book that most people wouldn't even think about buying because of the fact that it has such a high sales rank. But it dropped down to $32. And so the way that I judge whether or not I want to buy this book is looking at past historical sales. So we can go back into November of the previous year and see the sales rank did actually drop from 5.8 million down to 184,000, which indicates that the book did sell. You can see the offer count went from 4 to 3, and the cheapest price on Amazon was $189.99. Now, what we're going to do is continue to go back further, and we can see we have another sales rank drop, or potentially a sales rank drop here, from 5.9 million down to 2.1 million. Again, at the lowest use price at $195. Now, one thing that I always want to look for in a long tail book, especially if it's a book that I think can sell for a big margin, is even if the book isn't selling, I want the lowest price of that book on Amazon to stay very high. And the reason why I want to stay very high and not be low is because if the book's price ever is much lower and stays that low for an extended period of time and it doesn't sell, what it indicates is that even at a lower purchase price, people are not interested in it. But if you have a book that stays very high throughout a very long period of time, even if it's not necessarily selling, what it tells me is that the book is likely to be just a very rare niche book that probably does hold value, and the sellers are not really willing to tank the price or reduce the price significantly. Now, I would want to go a little bit further out. We can go 3,000 days. And again, what you'll notice is that this book doesn't generally sell very much at all. You can go back to 2023. It was in stock for about 2 weeks at $66, and then it sold. That's also great feedback. Hey, this book, having not been in stock for a long time, came back in stock at $66. In 2 weeks, it was sold for $66, which again is significantly higher than what we actually purchased the book at. Now you can go back to sales data before that. You can see again a sales rank drop at $169. Back in 2022, looks like a sales rank drop at $98 and another one at $195. So all I'm doing is looking to build a track record for this book to see, does it actually sell for some pretty high prices relative to what we can buy the book for. So this was enough for me to pick up the book. You can see that I did sell for $180, which again is the selling price that the book has actually sold for in the past. It's not some made up number. It's based upon historical selling data from the past. $180, made $106 profit, 270% ROI. Now for this particular book, it had only sold once or twice in the previous year outside of the time that I actually purchased the book. In other words, I was ready to sit on this book for a long time. I was ready to wait for a year, maybe up to 2 years to sell this book, because even if I didn't sell it at $180, let's say maybe after 6 months or 9 months, I lowered the price down to $119.99, the margin on this is still incredible. I mean, over 140% return, a $50 profit. So for me, that's something that I was willing to do. And if you are going to go into sort of buying these longer tail, rare niche books that you kind of act as investments, understand that it will take longer to sell. And so you have to be okay with that. You have to understand that this book could have taken much longer to sell. And many of the books that I do buy do take a lot longer to sell. But again, you have to kind of weigh the ROI with the, you have to kind of weigh the higher ROI with understanding you have to wait longer. Now the question is, how could you find books like this? Actually, quite simply, you just go over to Keepa, you go over to this Keepa Deals tab. I've gone ahead and put in some parameters that I just threw together right now. You could always change these parameters and find awesome books. I'm looking at the table view here. I'm looking at used books specifically. For the drop interval, I'm just looking at all combined, so not necessarily looking at a day, week, 3 months. I'm just looking at everything. Looking for anything that's had a drop of 50% or more, at least $40 in that drop. Currently, you can pick it up between 0 and 30 bucks. The reason why I like to do under 30 is just because there's a little bit less risk when you're buying books for less money. If you're finding these longer tail books and you're spending $50 or $100 or $200, obviously there's a lot more risk in those because of the fact that, well, they're just more expensive. In order for you to get a higher ROI, you have to sell them for a lot more than that. So 0 to 30, I think is a sweet spot. But again, there's plenty of opportunity outside of 30, 40, 50, and 100. And there's people who probably only play in that price range anyways. Now for the min price, I put 250,000. So I'm actually going to cap off the lower stuff. I'm only looking for higher rank stuff. I'm going to go up to 5 million. And what we're going to do is show only one variation per product and then sort by the newest. And when you do that, simply what you can do is just use your cursor to hover over each title, and you will find books that are actually pretty decent. Like this Kelly Blue book actually just came in stock at $30 about a week or two ago. If you look at what the book has sold for in the past, you can see 5 or 6 sales rank drops indicating the book has sold at a very high price, 70, 70, 49, 40, 56, 60, 60, 62. Now, this particular book probably had a high pricing here because the offer count went from 3 to 0 and the used price just got kind of cut off right there. So probably what happened is a high pricing here, and now people are listing underneath the high pricing here, which is probably why this book is a little bit cheaper. So if you were to buy this, I would actually send this in collectible condition because of the fact that you're probably gonna get a high pricing here. But again, historical sales in this book, I would say price at $65 to $75, and you're looking probably not quite 100% ROI, maybe like a 60 to 70% ROI, but a book that's pretty great. I mean, you can go back in time and you can look at periods of time where this book is easily selling for 50 to 60 bucks. And so buying this is as simple as going to the Amazon webpage, finding both copies there, checking out, and again, listing this in collectible condition because of the fact that I think there is going to be a high pricing here. And yeah, awesome. Now, one thing that does kind of suck with Keepa Deals is that you do have to use your cursor to hover over each book, which does actually take time. And the faster you can do this, the more money you're going to make, the easier it is, the more fun you'll have. But it's just part of the process, and you have to go one by one, and you'll find books that, again, are in here that are great, but you'll find a lot of duds. Again, nothing really any different than if you were to scan books at a thrift store or a library sale, where a small percentage of the books you're looking at are actually going to be good, but that's okay. We want to buy quality inventory, we want to buy quality books. Here's a book right here that's $15, Clinical Anatomy of the Eye. It looks like it's an older book, but again, you're looking at historical sales. So some sales in the 50s, now it just dropped down to $15.91. So again, probably not looking at a 100% ROI, maybe a 50% ROI. I would say your goal is to try to find books that are going to have probably over 100% return. This is actually a great book. You can see its price is $24. It just was at $90 a couple days ago, and now it's at $24. And we look at the most recent sales. So we had like a cluster of 4 sales in about a month period of time for 72. Then it saw 90 and it saw 112. Again, expand historical selling data, go back into time. It's a book that sells infrequently but consistently. It sells every single year a couple times, and plenty of times where this book has sold for well above what today's price is at. Now, there have been other periods of time where it has been a good pickup. For example, in October 2023, also in April 2022. And the reason why I say they were good pickups is because you could have bought it in April 2022 for $14 and then turned around and sold for $75, just like you could have bought it in October 23 for $15.95 and then sold it for $195, $75. And so here's another one of those great buying opportunities. So another great book that I'd recommend buying. Now, there is a much easier way to find books like this. It's through Bookmine Explorer, which is a software that Victor and I built. So a lot of you probably know about Bookmine, which tries to find faster moving books that a lot of people would be more interested in for like just the bulk of the types of books that they want to make up their inventory. But again, we made Bookmine Explorer for me because of the fact that I like these longer tail books. And to me, the biggest value out of Bookmine Explorer is that you get not just a 1-year Keepa snapshot, you get a 2-year Keepa snapshot. So in other words, you can look at more data, but you can look at it instantly. Do you remember with Keepa Deals how you had to like use your cursor, hover over one, it takes like a split second in order to find one, and so you go from one to the next, and so this is going to be very time consuming. With Bookmine Explorer, you just come on really quick and go, okay, these are the books that, okay, I want to look at this one, keep scrolling. Like I definitely want to look at this one, Fit to Fish, for example. It's $12 all in shipping. And I can tell over the last 2 years, it's been selling for about 50 bucks. So no filters needed. You just log on to Bookmine Explorer. And this is a book that I would absolutely buy for $12.94. Because again, I think I could probably sell for 40 to 50 bucks. And it might take up to 6 months or 9 months to actually be able to sell that book. But again, at over 100% ROI, I'd be more than happy to do that. So again, the cool thing here is that with Bookmine Explorer, you can just quickly go through books that interest you and check out those ones. This one right here is 1997. Looks like its most recent sell is right around 100. It has some sales in the 40s to 50s. So again, it's just quite cool that all these books are at the tip of your fingers. This book just dropped in price to $25. And over the last couple years, looks like it's been selling for north of 60, maybe even higher than that. Yeah, so $60 there, 89, a couple of 85. We can go back further into time. And it's a book that has historically sold very well for $70. And again, this book is just right available on Amazon. It's a book that's gone through a pretty drastic repricing war, and you can pick it up for $21. So again, what you do here is just go to the Amazon listing, look at this copy. Obviously, you want to buy a good copy. It is a good copy from someone with 100% feedback. They also happen to be a merchant fulfilled seller, meaning 100% feedback is actually much harder to obtain as a merchant fulfilled seller. And really, you could, based upon the subject matter, this Subterranean Worlds, 100,000 Years of Dragons, Dwarves, the Dead, Lost Races, and UFOs from Inside. I mean, it's a very niche book. The book that I would just buy all 3 copies of, honestly, because of the fact that the long-term historical sort of selling prices are so strong that it makes sense just to buy all of these. So for me, I'd buy this copy right here, send it to Amazon. I'd probably honestly send 2 of them to Amazon, and then I just buy one and let it sit on my shelf and let the other 2 sell, because again, it is going to take some time for these to sell. I mean, it's sold 4 or 5 times in the last year, so if I send 2 copies there, I bet that they would sell within a year, honestly, and I can replan the final book. And plus, these types of books I like to just keep on the shelf because they are interesting and cool to see why these books are worth so much. So anyways, I don't want this video to be too long. If you do want to try out Bookmine Explorer, then make sure you click the link down below in the description, get a free 10-day trial. Of course, you also have access to Bookmine, which is definitely the most popular feature of Bookmine. But again, Bookmine Explorer, those rarer, nicher, slower moving, long tail books, very, very high ROI. Those are the books that I like to source. So 10-day free trial on that. If that's not something you want to do, go to Keepa Deals. It's going to take more time to find them, but they are there, and a lot of great books to buy. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.